Hello, comparative religions, and welcome to this week's presentation on traditional Asian beliefs. Now, this is going to be an introduction to a much larger unit on Asian religion. To be honest with you, next week we're going to focus on the more popular Asian religions, namely Buddhism and Hinduism. But today I kind of wanted to give you an overview and I wanted to talk about three of the earlier Asian religion traditions in this presentation. Okay, so as we go through, be sure you are taking your own notes. I'll be honest with you, it is a very, very quick presentation. And there's things on all the slides that I want you to get down. I'll try to give you a hint. There is one slide I'm not going to make you copy things down on, but the other slides I'd like you to get down all the information. So let's get started with traditional Asian religions. Now, in all three of these, something that is similar is that all of them believe the universe is full of spirits rather than gods. Okay, and in that case, they're a lot like what? Naturalistic polytheism, okay, or animism. All right, animism believes in spirits as well. This is best represented by the yin and the yang. The yin and the yang, which is the symbol that you see here on the screen right here, this symbol represents the harmonious balance present in all things. And if you look at the list there, north versus south, earth, heaven, female, male, dark, light. I mean, if you go down, they're all opposites there. The yin tends to be very, very passive. It is cold, wet, feminine, evil, and negative. Okay, but it is also the higher one. The yang is very active, warm, dry, masculine, good, and positive, and it's the lower one. All right, but notice that because we're talking about harmonious balance, you need both. Okay, which is why the symbol contains both. They're molded together. Another early Chinese concept that we're going to find is the ritualistic practice of ancestor worship. There is heavy reverence for early family members. In fact, the spirits of early family members will be there to help the current family. And if you go into Chinese homes and other homes as well, you will often see very elaborate shrines, like you see in that photograph right there, dedicated to family members, okay, with offerings to keep the spirits happy because you want those spirits to help the current family. Now, those are some early Chinese concepts. Let's get into the actual belief systems here. Before we do that, though, let's talk about the five classics, okay? The five classics are the books that encompass early Chinese religious and secular life. They are attributed to Confucius. We're going to talk more about him in just a second. And they include the Book of History, the Book of Poems, the Book of Changes, the Spring and Autumn Annuals, and the Records of Ceremonies. Okay, and you can pretty much guess what's in them. The Book of History, of course, contains history. The Book of Poems, Records of Ceremonies would be descriptions of ceremonies and when you should have them and when you do have them. Almost like a family record, you would keep probably track of marriages and births and deaths in there. Spring and autumn annuals will deal with the changes of the season. And the Book of Changes will talk about the changes in the life cycle. Okay. Now, let's get into the early belief systems. We're going to talk about Taoism and Confucianism. One of the big questions when we get into the Asian religions, and we're going to see this when we get to Buddhism too, are these religions or philosophies? That is something that scholars debate. Are these religions or philosophies? Now, based on the definition that we used all the way back at the beginning of this semester and all the way back at the beginning of the class, a set of values that is adhered to strongly can be considered a religion. So even though there might not be talk about gods or some of the other religious terms that we hear when we talk about Taoism and Confucianism, because they are a set of beliefs that people adhere to strongly, I would go on and classify them as religions. They are indigenous to the people of Asia, specifically to the people of China. Taoism talks about natural simplicity and harmonious living. And you can also hear it referred to as Taoism or Taoism, but the focus is on natural simplicity and harmonious living. Confucianism stresses inner harmony and social order. So, in a way, both of them are kind of similar in that harmony is a big component. Okay. Taoism is all about harmonious living, Confucianism is all about inner harmony, but you see a desire for peace, for harmony, and for making the best of your surroundings. Okay. Now, let's start with Taoism or Taoism. It was founded by Lao Tzu, aka the Old Master. Now, it is one of the three major traditions in China. Confucianism and Buddhism are the other two. Taoists reject involvement in worldly affairs and seek to harmonize their life and energy, their qi, with the Tao or the Way. Okay? So the Tao or the Way is the cosmic force behind all occurrences. Taoists exalt the path of non-action. Okay? Natural occurrences are important and humans should not interfere. So they don't try to shape affairs to human design. All right? Life is an infinite process of change. It is not an occurrence of the soul. And scriptures include the Tao Te Ching. All right? So this idea of non-action, okay? Think about the weather. Sometimes weather can be destructive, okay, like a forest fire. Okay, think about a forest fire. This would be an example of non-action. If the fire occurs, should we put it out? Well, the Taoists might say no. Okay, we should not interfere. We should let the fire go, because what often happens after the fire comes through, there is significant regrowth. Okay, the forest, it kills off the dead trees, new trees come to take their place, new vegetation springs up. So maybe that is an incident where we don't want to get involved, but that's an example of the non-action. Okay, so Taoists believe in the cosmic force or the way behind all occurrences, and there are natural occurrences that maybe we should not interfere in. And life is an infinite process of change, not a single occurrence of the soul. In Confucianism was founded by Kongzi or Confucius, who lived between 551 and 479. He was very much concerned with societal chaos because he was a government official. So it should come as no surprise that Confucius is all about harmonious living within yourself. And if you can bring harmony within yourself, then you can live in harmony with the outside world as well. Now, his philosophies are written in the Analects. The Analects contain the five classics, which we talked about just a second ago. Confucianism is concerned with human virtue and how society can be organized to bring out the best for all concerned. Chinese moral values are expressed in major social relationships of life, like ruler subject, father son, husband wife, elder brother, younger brother, friend to friend. Observing these relationships with appropriate rituals and according to the code of moral and social conduct as contained in the Analects would produce a harmonious and just society wherein virtue is rewarded. Obedience and trust in heaven is assumed, but little interest is shown in gods and spirits. So in Confucianism, like I said, Confucianism deals with harmonious society, how you should live in the right family, how you should be the right citizen. It is also tied to the concept of filial piety. Okay, now think about it. If ancestor worship is important and the spirits of ancestors are important to Asian religion, this should come as no surprise. And what filial piety is respect for one's elders. And I already told you Confucianism has a great influence on government and society as a whole because Confucius himself was a government official and he wanted to promote harmonious living among the people. And again, if you can find harmony within yourself and harmony within your family, then that will translate to harmony in the outside world as well. Oftentimes, and you do not have, this is the one slide you do not have to copy down. Oftentimes we hear these sayings, Confucius says, okay? These are some of the sayings attributed to Confucius, okay? Confucius says, a superior man is modest in his speech, but exceeds in his actions. What is that saying? Oftentimes, it is referring to actions speak louder than words, okay? You're modest in speech, but you exceed in actions. By three methods we may learn wisdom. First, by reflection, which is the noblest. Second, by imitation, which is the easiest. And third, by experience, which is the bitterest. Okay? Which makes sense. You're going to experience things both good and bad, and you're going to learn from them. And the bad stuff can be bitter, but you're going to learn from it. Imitation is the easiest. You're copying things. Okay? Think about that in school, all right? If you're sitting there taking notes and stuff like that and learning, you're still learning. That's the easiest way. But the noblest way is on reflection. You think about what you take down, you apply what you take down in your own life. And that's noble. You're going to learn in all three ways, but just in different results, okay? I hear and I forget. I see and I remember. I do and I understand. This is why we get you to do things like take notes in class. Sometimes people can hear and remember. Sometimes they can see and remember. But if they're hearing and they're watching and they're writing at the same time, that's what's going to help cement the knowledge in people's heads. Okay. Now I know there's differentiation and discrepancy, and I'm not trying to blow that off. But if you do a combination of those three, you tend to remember what you're learning. Real knowledge is to know the extent of one's ignorance. Okay. By recognizing that you can't do it all, that gives you a sense of intelligence. And probably that what would go along with that is recognizing you don't know it all, but at the same time reaching out for help and reaching out for learning. That also demonstrates real knowledge. So those are some of the Confucian sayings. Again, you don't have to copy those down. But notice how much they're stressing harmony and peace. Now, the last thing we're going to talk about is actually Shintoism. Shintoism is traditional to Japan. In Shintoism, you have the concept of kami. Those are the gods and the spirits. Now, notice there's no absolute being, okay? Because once again, we have this concept of the spirit, okay? So you have these gods or these spirits, if you will. They're not absolute, but they're out there impacting us today. You have the on. The on is the ethical approach that individuals have. It is an expression of gratitude, okay? When you think about ethics, you're doing right, okay? You should always try to do right, not wrong. And part of doing what is right is being thankful to others that have helped you. You extend gratitude. You express thanks for those that have helped you. Harikari is ritual suicide. It is tied to loyalty. Now think about this for my history folks out there. World War II, Japan is known for what? Kamikaze pilots, okay? Why the kamikaze pilots do what they do? Because they're loyal to the empire. The kamikaze pilots commit suicide. This could easily be tied to harikari. Shintoism is very, very adaptive, okay? Numerous Buddhist observances are incorporated to Shintoism, okay? So Shintoism is kind of a hodgepodge of beliefs. It's very, very adaptive, but it is uniquely Japanese, okay? You don't tend to find a lot of Shintoism outside of Japan. Now, those are the three early forms of Asian religion, okay? Taoism, Confucianism, Shintoism. Next week, where we're headed, we're going to be talking about Hinduism and Buddhism, okay? Be sure you have these notes down. Be sure you keep these notes, and they're easy to get to because you will need them in the final assessment on this topic.